Okay, in my last video about the Neural DSP Quad Cortex and using your digital modeler live, I mentioned that I was going to take you through how I set up a preset for my use case to use live with the band. So let's jump straight into the good stuff. If you're playing in a tribute act, then recreating those sounds is super important to get that right. But playing in a pub covers band like I do, we don't need to be super exact to the sound. We're not trying to recreate anything. So keeping it simple, and that's going to be the message here, is keep it simple all the way through. That's kind of how I do it. Now I will try and set myself up with a clean-ish sound, crunch sound, a heavy rhythm sound, and a lead sound. If we go to Geek View, you can see that here. So I've got clean. You can see that changing on the unit itself. So we've got clean, we've got crunch, we've got heavy, and we've got lead. And there's a few things going on here, but the thing is to keep it super simple, right? Once you've got the basics, you can then expand on it from there, but set the basics right, get the levels right, good to go. Right, moving straight in. So signal chain. Imagine a real world setup here. In the real world, unless we're super high flying touring artists, let's be honest, we're not. We're just middle-aged people playing guitar. We're going to have one amp, one cab, speaker cabinet, and maybe a few effects pedals on the floor. Some of those will go into the front end of the amp, and if we've got an effects loop, time-based effects will go into the back. So I try to create my presets using that thought process. It just keeps it really simple. So looking on the screen here, we got input. I've got a slight noise gate on there, 30%, just does a little bit. My Les Paul, if it's cranked on the gain, can get a little bit of noise on there. Nothing wrong with that, I like it, but just try and take that out. First pedal in the chain, an expression pedal, use it as a wah pedal. We then have a pitch shifter, or the transpose function as it's called on here. It's just one knob up and down. We tune down, we play everything in E flat, just suits our singer, that's how it works for us. Then I'm into an overdrive pedal. This is a version of the Klon. I've never used a Klon, so I wouldn't know if it's accurate or not. I like it. Then I'm into another slightly different type of overdrive pedal. Then we come into, so that's the pedals in front. Now we're into the amp. Now, I've got two amp models here on the screen. This is actually one amp, two separate channels. So again, real world scenario, an amplifier. Some amplifiers have multiple channels on them. The first channel, exactly what it says it is, very low gain. I've pulled the bass back, we've boosted the mids, I've boosted the treble, and I've boosted the master here, so you can see that. Now, I mentioned in my last video, when you're playing live or in a band environment, you're going to need less gain than you think you are, and you're going to need less bass than you think you do. And then to make sure you cover out, you're going to push through, get those mids up, get those trebles up. This focus switch here, that just kind of tightens things up, as they call it, gets rid of a bit of low end. Don't use it on this one. Second channel, same amplifier, different channel. This comes in later on. Then we go straight into the speaker cabinet. I don't actually know what version of cabinet this is, but it's one that I like the sound of. I've tweaked it ever so slightly. I'll come on to that in a second. I have an EQ, an equalizer running in there. Just trying to shape the sound so it sits well when I'm playing with the band. Very minimal changes on there. And then we move into the classic time-based effects. So I've got a flanger pedal. We play a couple of songs where I need that. Delay, reverb, and then we're straight out. Very simple. Now, all of this is running mono because we play in mono. Why would I set something up in stereo when we don't use it? That just seems pointless to me. So recapping that, imagine that real world setup, all right? How would you do it if you only had one amplifier, one speaker cabinet, and a few pedals? Try and run your signal chain like that. That's top tip. Second thing would be, if you're running a mono signal to your PA system, set your preset up like that. Because if you're listening to it stereo at home, it's going to sound very different when you're listening to it in that band environment. The fourth thing is, coming onto that sound side of things, is it's going to, like I said in my last video, it's going to sound very different at band volume or at live volume. So be prepared for that. However, trust that bringing down the gain, bringing down the bass, and tweaking the EQ ever so slightly is going to give you what you need so that when you're playing with the band, you hear what you want to hear, all right? So how have I got this tweaked? Let's go to this speaker cabinet. And like I said, I don't actually know what this is based on. This is just one that's available to the Neural Quad Cortex. I've done what's called a high pass filter, or as I know in the real world, this is a low cut. So what I've done is I've just cut out low frequencies up to around about 100 Hertz-ish, because that's what works for us. That's the bass. Why would we want to take up space where the bass guitar is playing? We don't, right? If you're interested to know another 5 simple tips and tricks on how best to use your modeler and get the best sound from it as quickly as possible, then click this link up here. All right, let's get back into it. Here's where the magic happens on these 2 amplifiers, all right? This is my clean-ish sound. So let's go back to that gig view. We're clean. So you can see here what I'm on. You can see here if anything else switches on, and here's how we change it. So clean, I've got that gain pulled right down, but I've pushed the master to give it just a little bit of hair, a little bit of magic sauce on there. Click on that crunch button. You see the gain comes up, pretty much everything else stays the same. So just adding a little bit more crunch. I go to my heavy channel, that side of the amplifier switches off, and we move into channel 2, which is a lot heavier. And now we've got a couple of things happening on here. So again, not much gain, pulled the bass down, I've pushed the mids, I've left the treble where it is, and the master volume is up a little bit, all right? If you found this video useful, consider giving it a thumbs up and make sure you press that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos on how I use tech in the real world, not some studio environment. All right, let's get back into it. Now we move on to the lead scene. Nothing much changes here. Overall output goes up, so I get that little bit of lead boost. My focus switch comes on, that tightens things up, gets rid of a bit more bass for me. Plus, we've had this delay pedal kick in. So there we go, it's super simple. Doesn't matter what scene I'm in. If we go down to the box, if I'm in my clean channel and I want a bit of a overdrive, bit of delay, all that kind of stuff, I can switch that on, or I can switch those off. If I go to my heavy setting and I want to tighten that up, I can just bang that on. It's all options. Real simple, easy to use stuff. I use one preset throughout the entire set. I will have different effects come on for different songs. I'll save this same preset for different songs based on what we're doing here, whether we're going up or down or whatever it is. Now we can make this as complicated as we want. I mean, we can properly make some complicated presets here. But unless you need that, if you're playing live, then I would just keep it really simple, all right? There's loads of information out there about digital modelers. Go and watch them, do your own research, play with it, but more importantly, play the guitar. Like I said in the previous video, just play guitar and have fun doing it. This is how I use mine in the real world, real life, real gigs, real band. So there you have it, a very swift look at how I set up a digital modeler to use in our pub covers band. I hope you found it useful, and as ever, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.